I like the one at the bottom right there with the Cyrillic language all in red caps, and I'm starting to hear through my ears some music that would suit the situation. I dare say that John Duggan is coming in hot on the line. John Duggan, are you there?
Owen and Anthony, good morning.
Morning, John.
A jubilant Russia, I dare say, this morning, John.
I never thought I would wear this hat. I bought it when I bought the Ushanka. But given the day that's in it and what's happened here in the last 24 hours, I had to take out the hat and wear it today. So, yeah, it's just what a day! What a day for Russia! I can't really think of a bigger day in terms of worldwide focus on Russia in contemporary history. Maybe Yuri Gagarin, who was the first man to go into space, was the last one. But it's hard to top what happened yesterday, lads. Hard to top it.
Yeah, look, what were the scenes like last night? I presume it was just utter chaos.
Well, the first thing was when Akinfeev saved the penalties. I was in the Luzhniki Stadium to watch the match against Spain. I went to the Olympic final in Rio in 2016, and when Brazil beat Germany in the final, it was effectively the whole of the crowd was Brazilian, over 70,000, and the noise was just absolutely deafening. I've never heard a noise like it, and I never thought I would hear it again, and yesterday I heard it again. It's almost like being in a swarm of locusts, in a good way. Just the noise, it's the euphony of the noise. It's very hard to describe. You just almost have to feel it. Just complete pandemonium when Russia went through. And then when I went out, I kind of gave 20 minutes, half an hour for the crowds to disperse a bit. I went outside, thought, this is pretty mellow. They have that song. The only song the Russians really sing is that Seven Nation Army by the White Stripes. That's the one they repeat. Not really a support base for bands or like the South Americans would be. But it was pretty mellow in the metro. And I was thinking, is because there's so much police are so conspicuous here? Is are they just taking it easy? They want to be told off or whatever. But once I got into the main road, straddling the Kremlin and Red Square, the place just went crazy, absolutely crazy. Every single car blaring the horns. Everybody was hanging out of their cars. Your people were out of the tops of the sunroofs of cars, and it was going on for about 4 or 5 hours. I went and watched Croatia Denmark. When I came out, it was still going on. Thousands of people thronging the streets, just in pure joy and rapture, because they never expected it. I don't think the Russians. They never expected that possibly they get to the last 16 and then they beat the champions of 8 years ago, Spain, in a penalty shootout. The biggest win for Russian football or Soviet football since 1970. And I remember just this one moment I was looking at a guy who was just waving an ice hockey stick out of his front of his car. And there was another moment when a green Porsche sped by, this most amazing car, and a guy with the most biggest flag I've ever seen. And it just another group of lads like with their shirts off, people jumping into fountains, half clothed. Just brilliant stuff. And I think that it's joy that is so unexpected. Like I remember when they talked about the Walkinstown roundabout in 1990 for the Republic of Ireland. It's like everybody just said, we're just going to go out in the street and see what happens. And that's what happened. And I said a lot of people have got a hangovers today. I don't think there'll be much work done in Russia today throughout the whole of the country.
No, you're probably right. Now, I'm actually, when you mentioned the ice hockey stick there, I'm surprised that none of those papers actually led with the term miracle on grass last night, because it seems to be sort of the revenge to the Western world after what happened in the Winter Olympics all those years ago.
Yeah, I was in Kaliningrad the other day, and the sport they're into there is hockey. So, no, but I think football, the Soviet Union's got a huge history with football, back to the European Championship in 1960, which they won. They reached the semi-finals of England's World Cup in 1966. Haven't had the players for a long while, probably since the Arshavin days. But look, they knew what they wanted to do. Once they got that lucky equaliser, it was a deserved penalty, but on the balance of play, it was a fortuitous moment for Russia in the 41st minute to Zuba yesterday. But once that happened, they played for penalties. They put 10 men behind the ball, and they said to Spain, you know what, you come with us and you find a way. And Spain couldn't find a way. It's almost like Spain went to the most expensive restaurant, had their favourite dish, overindulged completely, and then went to the bathroom and got sick. They drove around the roundabout all day. That's like you went to the roundabout and just drove around the roundabout all day. Over 1,000 passes, lads. It was just ridiculous. And I think that it just showed to me there was a lack of coaching there. And this goes back to Lopetegui sacking, Florentino Perez, Real Madrid, Rubiales, the whole thing, as Marca said, is a complete mess from Spain because they were leaderless and rudderless, and they couldn't. Iniesta was the only player who might have broken Russia down, but they didn't. And I had a feeling, you know what? I think the feeling kind of happens that Russia are going to do them in the penalties, and Akinfeev then saved the 2 penalties.
Yeah, he's going to become a national hero, isn't he, Akinfeev? He's going to be right up there with all the greats you mentioned at the start. It was like an absolutely iconic moment. And even some journalists inside the Nizhny Novgorod Stadium last night posted a video of a completely empty stadium, but a gigantic roar emanating from outside the ground to inside the ground from all the Russian people outside it. Like, he is going to be a national icon. Whatever the Russian version of being knighted is, certainly Vladimir Putin will take him under his wing, I presume, for the rest of his life.
Well, the greatest footballer in Russian history is a goalkeeper,
yeah.
Lev Yashin. The Black Spider, as he was known, because he wore, it's actually very dark blue, his clothing. Won the Ballon d'Or in 1963, Lev Yashin, and is a Russian national hero. We remember Dasayev in 1988 when Ronnie Whelan scored the winning goal, or we thought was the winning goal until Russia equalised in the 1-1 draw in Hanover in the European Championship, and he was a great goalkeeper as well, Dasayev. They've got a history of great goalkeepers, Russia, back to Lev Yashin, probably the best goalkeeper of all time. And Akinfeev now following in those footsteps, the captain. They gave it everything. They gave it everything, Russia. And Spain were hoisted on their own petard. And Spain only have themselves to blame. And now Russia play Croatia in the quarterfinals. We're going to say again that Croatia should comfortably win. But in this crazy World Cup, this marvellous, stupendous, all the adjectives you want to use, who knows? And that's why I'm wearing the silly hat today.
What's the fallout, John, for Hierro and Spain? What's the feeling on the ground there now?
I think Hierro, you can't really say anything against Hierro. He's put into the situation. He's a technical director. He was involved in 2010 when they won the World Cup. He never expected, I remember there was the photos of him rowing with the Pedagui. He never expected to be put in the situation. He's a national hero. He played over 80 times for his country. He's won Champions Leagues. You can't say anything about Hierro. He's just given this hospital pass of a situation where they got to run a World Cup team. I think I think Real Madrid are just a pain. Personally, I just think they're a pain. And Florentino Perez, it's a pain. Just for me, it's a pain in the neck. And why couldn't you have done your business after the World Cup? It's not all about you. It's not. I know you won 3 Champions Leagues, but listen, like, international football is important. It's not all about the club game. And that's just my own personal opinion on it. They could have done this afterwards. The Pedagui was naive. How long will the Pedagui last at Real Madrid? Doesn't work out for him, he'll be out the door. And where will he be then? And that's the kind of feeling I have about Spain. Whatever with the lack of cutting edge or the tiki-taka and all that kind of stuff. Lack of leaders yesterday as well, I felt. Lack of leadership. They never got out of any kind of first gear. They never had an urgency. They never had a tempo. And you could see it coming. You could see it coming midway through the second half. You could see it coming at full time. You could see it coming halfway through extra time. You could just see this happen. You could see this unfolding in front of your eyes. And they treated the whole thing like a fait accompli, which is the worst thing you could do in sport. It's like Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas. That's what the kind of the comparison I would make. And Russia did them. And fair play to Russia. They deserve to go through.
We just saw a tweet on screen a moment ago, John, from Miguel Delaney saying that Marca ran a poll on their Twitter account asking who was mostly to blame for this, and they left Perez and they left Lopetegui out of the situation. Like, I know Marca are the nationalistic newspaper of Spain as a whole. They would generally kind of fall on the side of Real Madrid, I presume. So maybe that's not representative of Spain as a whole, but it does seem that the inquest is going to start with those who are currently inside in the Spain squad, and they're not going to be looking at the 2 boys over in Real Madrid right now.
They're going to be looking at Luis Rubiales. Did he take a rush of blood to the head for wounded pride? I mean, it was ridiculous that he found out, 5 minutes before the announcement was going to be made. He deserved a bit more respect from that. But did he need to pull the trigger on Lopetegui, who had not been beaten as a Spanish, who had not lost since Euro 2016? He had great success at underage level. He knew a lot of the players like Isco, who's now been much maligned today for the fact that he had all these passes and none of them went forward. So it's like ourselves, and we had Mick and Roy. There's all the what ifs and might have beens and this and that, and who gets the blame and who doesn't, and could we not have just smoothed it out? But it's a mess, and you've got an FA and the biggest club in Spain, one of the biggest clubs in the world, at loggerheads in terms of the way they do business, and there's no winners in it. No winners. Would they have won the World Cup? Who knows? But they would have done a lot better than they did yesterday if they'd probably had Lopetegui there. not even really the pedigree, but the stability that was lacking yesterday, and the lack of urgency and the lack of leadership and the lack of direction to just go and beat Russia and stop passing the ball 1,000 million times.
Yeah, it's true. Like, the knock-on effect is substantial here as well, John, because one of Russia, Colombia, Croatia, Sweden, Switzerland and England are going to be in the World Cup final, and there's no prizes for guessing which one of them are the only team to have won a World Cup. I think Sweden are the only ones to have actually, other than England, to have actually made a World Cup final. This whole thing is wide open on the side of the draw, John.
Yes, and what does it mean, Owen and Anthony? Does it mean that the World Cup finals are going to happen before the final? Is Brazil-Belgium going to be a bit of a World Cup final? Is Brazil-France going to be a bit of a World Cup final? Or Belgium-France, if it works out that way? Now, Uruguay will have a bit to say about that. Mexico will have a bit to say about that today. But it's almost sometimes the finals can become the final before the final. I know I'm going off on some weird tangent here, but I'm trying to make sense in that. But like, if you're looking at England, I know the hype machine tends to get into overdrive there, but are they ever going to get a better chance? Are they ever going to get a better chance? We don't know what the situation is with James' fitness for Colombia tomorrow at the Spartak Stadium in Moscow. If he's not fully fit, that could swing it in England's favour. If he is fully fit, Colombia will have a big chance. Sweden and Switzerland are good teams, but we're not talking about them as world beaters. We're talking about them as highly organised, efficient teams that punch above their weight. Croatia, you'd have to expect will be in the semi-final. Good midfield, but a lot of, how many new players do they have? Really, yeah. Rebic is a new player, Bojevic, but yeah, in terms of youth, they've been around a while. Once again, if I saw Croatia against Brazil, would I be back in Croatia? No. So it is wide open, and I kind of expected Croatia and Denmark to go to penalties last night. Had a feeling from earlier in the day it would be a tricky contest for Croatia. That's how it went. Kasper Schmeichel was brilliant. 3 penalties saved, but you have to give credit to Modric, missing a penalty in extra time and then scoring that penalty in the shootout. As a friend of mine, Steve Roberts, reporter in Liverpool, pointed out to me, this is actually quite a good point. Should there be a thing in football where there's a penalty goal given like a penalty try? Because Rebic, it was an open goal. He would have scored. It was it was going to be a goal. And then does the penalty kind of reduce the advantage, if that makes any sense?
It's an interesting. It's an interesting one, John. But like, it takes the element of jeopardy out of it. Surely, it's the moral dilemma you have that's going in on Rebic yesterday. Do you take him down? Do you not? Do you make it look like you're going for the ball? Do you not? Do you do what Suarez did? It just adds a whole level of grey area, which makes football so fascinating sometimes.
Yeah, it does. It's just something to put out there to the audience, to the listeners. A penalty, because in a very extremely clear situation, if you have a VAR and all that kind of thing, to bring in a situation where you have like an open goal, it would have been a goal, and like a rugby and a penalty try, it's almost a decision made. That would have been a goal. Like I think the grey areas are probably mean that it wouldn't work, but I think it's a good thought. It's an interesting subject and an interesting question, I felt. Yeah. But Croatia and Russia down now in Sochi on Saturday, and we got 2 more games to look forward to today. I thought after Saturday, guys, this World Cup couldn't get any better after Argentina-France, and then we had what we had yesterday. So I never expected it to happen. I don't think half of Russia did either.
Yeah, we're going to get stuck into a little bit more of the weekend's action with you on World Cup Daily from 12:30 later on, John. John, take care for the time being. We'll chat to you soon.
All right, lads. Take care.